And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to me and to you? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the person in charge of the banquet." So they took it. When the person in charge tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, that person called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and the disciples believed in him. This is the word of God, reminding us that we can never outspend the hope that fills the house. Thanks be to God.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable and pleasing in your sight, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. A few years ago, when my kids were little, there was a Christmas movie that was pretty popular. It was called Jingle All the Way. And I think it had Arnold Schwarzenegger in there. And it was all about getting just the right Christmas present. Now, in this day of Amazon, going shopping on Black Friday isn't quite what it used to be, but people used to line up just to get the perfect gift. And there just never seemed to be enough of those gifts. When I was a kid, I remember when Cabbage Patch dolls first came out. And my sisters and I, we really wanted a Cabbage Patch doll. But my parents were really struggling, and we did not have enough money for one. But it didn't really matter because there were never any on the shelves at the store, even if my parents could have bought one. To me, this is what an economy of scarcity is about. Going to the store and they're just out. They don't have what we want. Now, I was talking to someone in their 20s lately, and I was asking them about wedding culture these days. Because we've got kids in their 20s. They're not ready to get married yet, but I am sure that day is going to come. And I'm trying to figure out what weddings are like for people in their 20s now. Because even when Park and I got married 30 years ago, we are leaving next week on our cruise for our 30th anniversary. We'll be gone for 2 weeks. But 30 years ago, we got married a few years after college. And so we went and we did the gift registry, but we already had 2 apartments that we were having to put together. There wasn't actually a ton of stuff that we needed. And so as I was talking to this 20-something, they're like, "Oh yeah, everyone is getting older and older when they get married. They don't really need the gift registry anymore." And I said, "Well, from what I've seen, it is really expensive with rent these days, trying to get a house, paying off student loan debt." I said, "Are people still doing really big weddings? Because some weddings are very expensive." And this person said, "No, we're still doing pretty big weddings, although they said they don't go, completely crazy with it." I said, "Well, why do you still do such a big wedding?" And they said, "It's about relationships." And I don't know if this is the role that COVID played in their lives as they were coming to adulthood, but they said it is so important to us to be gathered with the people who are most important to us as we are starting our married life. So we still have a lot of people come to our weddings, but we maybe dial a few things down. And I said, "Okay, that makes sense." And then they went on to say something that really stuck with me, and I thought about it a lot this week as I was preparing for today. They said, "We're part of the gift economy." I said, "The gift economy? That sounds pretty good. Tell me about that." And they said, "We all know how hard it is to get started these days. And when I go to weddings, I don't buy gifts anymore. I give them money for their home down payment. I give them money to help pay off their student loan debt. They said almost all the gifts at the weddings they go to now are cash in order to help the family get started. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And they said, in fact, everyone expects that they're going to get a significant chunk of money towards their home down payment at their wedding now. And I thought, well, that's a very different way of approaching a wedding, and that's a very different way of thinking about how we share our resources with each other as we go through different phases in life. So I looked at the news then, and I thought about this gift economy, and as I went through the news, I thought, yeah, I'm not seeing gift economy ideas anywhere in the news. It seems like the message we're always hearing is the scarcity economy. There's never going to be enough, so you better go and get yours right away, or there won't be any for you. Isn't that how most of us feel like the world is talking to us? You better get in line. You better get there first. You better take care of yourself. Scarcity economy versus the gift economy. So when we come to Jesus and start thinking about this, I know a few people have tried to explain to me how Jesus was a communist. And I'm like, I don't see communism anywhere in Jesus' teaching or anywhere in the Bible. The Bible's very clear. Life is unequal. Some people definitely have more than other people. But the economy of Jesus is a gift economy. We are all to take a portion of what we have and share it so that all have enough. Not so that all are equal, but that all have enough. A gift economy. Shared resources, shared gifts, so that everyone has enough. In the book of Acts, we read about this with the deacons who were set up by the church to go and make sure that the widows and orphans had enough. In fact, at one point, there was a fight in the church. I know, a fight in the church? Who'd have thought? But in the book of Acts, there was a fight in the church because the Jewish widows and orphans were getting enough, but the Gentile, the Greek, the non-Jewish widows and orphans were not getting enough. And so the church had a committee meeting, and they decided they would have Jewish deacons and they would have non-Jewish deacons, and they made sure that everyone got their fair share. Now, we as a congregation, we share our resources. Right now, we are collecting food and school supplies for the Pulaski Food Pantry. And during September, we have a special fundraising program for the Ecumenical Partnership for Housing. We are doing our part to make sure our local neighbors have food and housing. So when we think about Jesus at this wedding, these stone jars we have are nowhere near big enough. They were like 20 to 30 gallon jars in Jesus' time. Hobby Lobby did not have large enough jars. It was a lot of water that was there for a different purpose. But when I looked at this story this week about Jesus being at this wedding, a couple things stood out to me that I hadn't really thought about before. I knew this was his first miracle. He really wasn't doing his ministry thing yet. He'd collected a few disciples, and he was chatting with them and kind of getting to know them. But it was really low-key. There was nothing public yet about Jesus. But he's about 30 years old, and we saw in the reading that Jesus and his disciples were invited to this wedding. They were proper guests. They were not wedding crashers. They were supposed to be there, and they're just hanging out. We don't know what Jesus' relationship with the couple is, but they are there legitimately having a nice time, and the wine runs out. This was a terrible, shameful social faux pas. Weddings back then usually lasted like 5 or 6 days, so you had to go through a lot of wine. So for the wine to run out was terrible. And Mary saw the wine ran out, and she decides by herself that it's time for Jesus to start doing the Jesus stuff. Now, if you think about Mary, it doesn't say much here. It says Mary saw the wine was out, and Mary told the servants to do whatever her son said, kind of putting him on the hot seat. But the thing is, Mary had an angel come to her room and say, "You're going to have a special baby." 30 years ago. Mary's been waiting for 30 years to see what her special baby is going to do. Her special baby is now 30 years old. Now, some of us have children who are coming up on 30 or maybe past 30. I don't know if we're still waiting to see what our special children are going to do. But Mary knew Jesus was really special. And what had he done? I would love to know what was in Mary's mind that Mary decided now was the moment that Jesus was going to start his ministry. I don't know if Gabriel or Michael or another archangel came and gave her a vision and said, "Time to get him going." But Mary decides at this moment, enough is enough. Jesus, it's time to get it in gear. And Jesus is like, "Woman," now, it sounds a little rude in English. It really isn't that rude in Greek and Hebrew. But he's like, "Woman, it's not my time." And she goes to the servant, "Do whatever he says." And he turns water into wine. He doesn't just turn enough into wine for that meal. He turns enough, I don't know, probably for 6 months, a year. This family is set. They have got plenty of wine. Jesus doesn't just take care of the immediate problem. Jesus takes care with an overflowing amount. But the other thing that really caught my attention this week as I looked at this is that there was already liquid there. There was jars of water. Jesus did not make wine out of the air. Jesus did not have a magic wand and just poof, abracadabra, it showed up. There was something there. Someone had already collected the water and brought the water. Can you imagine 20 to 30 gallon stone jars, moving those around? Someone had the water there. Now, there's another story later on, a miracle of abundance that Jesus does. I think most of you are familiar, the feeding of the 5,000. Plenty of food. There's 12 baskets of food left over from that one. And it started with some loaves and fishes. Some loaves and fishes that someone brought to the gathering. Jesus did not create out of nothing. Jesus starts with what we bring, our gifts, our offerings. Jesus works through us. Jesus takes what we bring and we give, and Jesus makes it abundant. So his public ministry gets started. We read about how the disciples come to believe in Jesus, and word spreads. Word spreads like wildfire. How do you think the 5,000 people showed up for that lunch later on? It was probably because they heard about the wine. And they were hoping. They showed up because they had hope. They had an abundance of hope. Now, when we think about our scarcity economy today, I think that's the real problem with a scarcity economy, is there's no hope in a scarcity economy. I mean, there's the hope, maybe I'll get there first so I make sure I get some. But what there really is anxiety that there won't be enough. Jesus' economy is about an abundance of hope. There will always be enough. Now, that enough may come from all of us sharing our gifts so that as a community we make sure everyone has enough. But we are to share because we have all been given gifts by Jesus. My son really loves history, and we've talked about some of the trends in history and things that are happening in the world today, and one of the things that struck me as I was looking through history is that one of those times that we've often heard about where there wasn't enough was the Irish potato famine. And many of us have heard that a lot of people died in Ireland, And we are blessed with a whole bunch of people with Irish ancestry here in America because a whole bunch of people left Ireland because they couldn't get enough food to eat. But what I did not know until recently is that there was plenty of food. There was more than enough food at the time of the potato famine. The problem wasn't that there wasn't enough food. The problem was people weren't sharing. A few people had lots. A few people were controlling the trade in potatoes. And a few people, frankly, were just plain mean and didn't want everyone to have some. That is a scarcity economy where a few people hold on and a whole bunch of people don't know where to turn. So as we start this fall season, I want us to think about the economy of the world, our own personal economies, and how do we approach the resources that we have been given? Do we have a scarcity mentality? Do we worry about how it's all going to come out? Or do we have a gift economy idea where we're going to share, we're going to show up, we're going to bring, even if it's just a can of tuna and a roll of Hawaiian bread, we're going to show up and God is going to make it enough for everyone. This fall, we're going to do something that I'm not sure anyone in this room has ever done. And if you ask the district superintendent, you'll probably hear that generally no church ever does this. But we're going to try and start 2 new worship services over the next 6 months. Now, it was not my idea. Our worship team is working with a church coach who has a lot of experience developing worship. She decided that we needed 2 services, not just 1, and I said, "You're crazy. No one does that." And she said, "No one does it, but you guys are going to do it." And she said, "You're even going to succeed." I will say I have had a few worried nights thinking about this. But what we bring is a beautiful, caring faith family that we already have that is already starting to get a little too full for this room. And we're going to bring our humble loaves and fishes, and we are going to invite people to come and be part of the abundance of hope and joy and peace that Jesus gives by inviting more people to be part of this faith family, a faith family that is growing into a gift economy, a faith family that is learning to share and learning to go outside our walls to make sure that people in our community, people in our state, and people around the world have enough. We've got people wearing shirts right now that say, "This shirt fed 30 people. What did your shirt do?" They are very cheeky shirts, but we are getting ready to hopefully, what's the goal? 13,000 meals that we're hoping to pack in January. But this month, we can share our resources with the Ecumenical Partnership for Housing and make sure our neighbors here in Brown County have housing. Some of us are called to take care of people far away. Some of us are called to take care of people close by. All of us are called to share whatever it is that God has given us so that the gift economy of Jesus expands and all have enough. So as you leave today, I want you to know there are several things you can do because I have never been part of a church that has started a new worship service. I have not been part of a church that has been growing. And isn't that a wonderful thing to be part of a church that's growing? Right? Really? You're that excited? You're part of a church that's growing. Be excited. So out in the hall, oh, I like the whistle. Thank you. Out in the hallway, in the lobby, there is a sheet of paper that says 5 steps to grow worship. Number 1, breakthrough prayer. This is something a number of churches have done very powerfully. There's a little card on one of the pub tables. I invite you to take one of these cards. If we run out, we will make more. But I invite you to pray this card once a day, wherever you are. I often put it by my toothbrush because I know I brush my teeth every day and I can get the prayer in then. Maybe you put it by your mirror, maybe you put it by your devotional book, maybe you put it by your contact lens cleaner. Wherever you know you're going to see this every day, say a prayer every day. Number 2, invite people. Out here we have 2 invitation tools. We have some seed packets that say, come grow with us. Give this to someone that you know is looking for a little hope and love and peace in their life. We also have some Mad Lib. Someone's laughing over here. Someone's done a Mad Lib. Hey, friend's name, fill it in. Sunday worship is going to be, can I have an adjective? Great. Okay, that was amazing. What's another adjective? Exciting. What's another one? Fun. Sunday worship is going to be great. You don't want to miss the amazing message and the fun music. You can meet me at, tell them where to meet you. We have 3 doors to the building. You want your friends to find you. So tell them where you're going to be and what time you're going to be there. And then there's a place where you can draw in an emoji, because this is 2025. So feel free to take one of these invitations and invite someone to come to church. And then in a little bit, you're going to see one of our video testimonies. These are less than 60-second videos. I would love to help you make your own video testimony. So just make an appointment with me, come in, and we will be making some videos. And one of our core values as a church is joyful energy. So we do want to make this fun. So our worship committee has been scheming. And according to this sheet, it says if we have 3 Sundays with at least 75 people here, it's going to get cozy. How many do we have? 86 today, so we've made 1 Sunday already. If we have 3 Sundays with at least 75 people, we will have a pie day. And I have heard this will be a buffet of pies, which makes my husband very happy. However, I have also been told to bring a poncho and a shower cap, and I believe somehow certain people will be selected to pie the pastor. So 3 Sundays with at least 75 people. If we have 2 Sundays with at least 85, I didn't think through whether you could double count here. If we have 2 Sundays with at least 85, I will make you some East Carolina pulled pork barbecue sliders. If we break 100 on a Sunday that is not Christmas or Easter, we will get out our popcorn machine and have a popcorn bar. I heard from a church planter once that he told himself every single morning that planting and growing a church was not his job. His job was to meet people, build relationships, to plant seeds, to encourage people, but God brings the growth. Jesus turned water into wine. Jesus turned a boy's lunch into a meal for 5,000 people. And God is going to turn this 9 o'clock worship service into 3 services, hopefully by the end of January. So, you do need to be inviting people every Sunday if you're going to have your pie and your barbecue and your popcorn by February. So, thank you for wanting to be part of this. Thank you for growing into an economy of hope and praise and love. Let us